call to order our public hearing October 17th, 2023. Item B, declaration of a quorum, 6 members present, 1 absent. Welcome, everybody. Brings us to item C, public hearing, consideration and discussion related to the 2023 financial management report based on the 2021-2022 fiscal year and overview of the school's first system and most recent rating for College Station Independent School District. Ms. Draws.
Thank you very much. So tonight there is a public hearing regarding our first or financial report. A little confusing. This is the 2022-2023 report, but it's based on information from a year ago, 21-22. That is because it takes audit information, and of course we're just now conducting our audit for 22-23, so that has to be completed and submitted and the data analyzed. So it always runs a year behind. So I'm going to give a slight overview of that report, and then Mr. Neely, our Director of Business Services, will present some of the details. But first of all, the acronym FIRST stands for Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas. This accountability system was developed by TEA in 1999, and it holds districts accountable for the quality of their financial management systems. Not only does it look at our financial reports, but it compares it to various other data within the district, such as staffing and reporting deadlines. There are 20 indicators that were established by the Commissioner of Education. There are 4 different types of ratings. A is for superior achievement. That is the highest possible score a district can have. B is considered above standard achievement. C, standard achievement, and F is for substandard achievement. So we are very proud to say that College Station received a superior achievement with a score of 98 out of 100. This is based on 20 indicators. There's 4 what we call critical indicators that you must pass in order to score anything above an F. There's 5 ceiling indicators. One of those is a duplicate of the critical, and 12 other indicators that are not being scored right now. The reason they're not scored is they did implement some changes just prior to the pandemic with some additional criteria, and then with the pandemic they decided not to score those just yet. There were things such as enrollment and that sort of that were basically very difficult to obtain and also very difficult to control. So they still have not scored those indicators. The ceiling indicators they're a pass-fail basis. And if you fail those indicators, then there is only a certain score that you could receive, such as you can't get anything above an 89, regardless if you got all the other points on all the other ones. So there are some ceiling indicators as well. So first of all, the 4 critical indicators, of which CSISD passed all 4. That is, we issued our financial report timely. We had an unmodified opinion on our report, made all of our debt payments on time, and we had timely payments to all the regulatory agencies, that being TRS, IRS, and other government entities. So from there, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Neely. They're over financial reporting, and he's going to go over the other indicators that have more detail on them.
Thank you. So in addition to the 4 critical indicators that Amy went over a moment ago, there are also 16 solvency indicators, which are designed to measure the district's financial stability. As Amy mentioned, a number of these indicators have a designated ceiling, which creates a maximum point value that a district can earn in the event that the indicator has failed. For each of these indicators, TA utilizes information from both our PEIMS data as well as from our district's annual financial report to determine whether or not we pass or fail a particular indicator. So indicator number 5, you can see that it is slightly grayed out, and that is because it is not currently being rated. But had it been rated, this would have measured the total unrestricted net position balance for the district. In future years, this would be a ceiling indicator, which would have a maximum score of 79 if failed. But again, similar to the prior few years, this was not rated by TEA. Indicator number 6 measures what the average change in fund balance was over 3 years and looks to see if that was it did not exceed a 25% decrease. It also looks to see if the current year's assigned fund balance exceeded 75 days of operational expense. Similar to indicator number 5, this was also a ceiling indicator and has a maximum score value of 89 if failed. However, in this case, CSISD passed both aspects of this particular indicator. So looking at that a little bit more specifically, the first part, TA looks at the change in fund balance basically from fiscal year 20 to fiscal year 22. And it determines whether or not over that time frame there was a 25% decrease. CSISD actually had an 8.34% increase over that same time frame. In addition to that, it also calculates your 75-day operational expense and compares that to the assigned and unassigned fund balance. As you can see, our assigned and unassigned fund balance exceeded the cash test for that 75 days of operational expense. So one difference between the prior year report and this year's report is we passed both aspects of this indicator, while last year we did not meet the 75 days operational expense test. So indicator number 7 is looking at, was the number of days of cash on hand in investments sufficient to cover operating expenditures in the general fund? So this is our first sliding scale indicator. So basically you have a maximum point that you can achieve of 10, but there's different values that you can achieve based off the ratio that's calculated by TEA. So more specifically, this takes a look at cash and cash equivalents as well as current investments and then divides that by your total expenditures. Essentially, a valuation of 90 or more equates to the maximum 10 points. The district was able to achieve 112 points on this particular score, so we are well above the minimum for that maximum designation. Indicator number 8 was a measure of current assets to current liabilities ratio sufficient to cover short-term debt. There's a maximum of 3 points, or to earn the maximum points, you have to have at least a ratio of 3.0. And again, this is also measured on a sliding scale. So specifically, it's just looking at our current assets to current liabilities. In the district's calculation, that ratio is 4.2. So again, we're well above the ratio required for max points for indicator number 8. Indicator number 9 was the general fund revenue equal to or did it exceed expenditures for the fiscal year under review. So this particular indicator, solvency indicator, looks just at our revenue and expenditures. So if you look at back on fiscal year 22, revenue exceeded expenditures by a little bit over $1 million. But if you recall from our previous reports from our audited financial report, the district did realize a decrease in fund balance in that particular year. And that goes back to the recognition of an extraordinary loss from the hail damage as well as some prior year tax refund judgments. But again, what's important to note is that this indicator doesn't look at that particularly. It's just looking at that change in revenue to expenditures. Indicator number 10 is also grayed out because this is, again, another indicator that TA is not currently evaluating. I do believe in prior years this was evaluated, but in future years, if it will be evaluated, it will have a maximum designation of 10 points. Indicator number 11 was the ratio of long-term liabilities to total assets sufficient to support long-term solvency. So whenever we look at this indicator, to earn the max points, you have to have a ratio of 0.6 or less. With this being a sliding scale, the fact we didn't achieve that particular ratio, but we did achieve the next section with a 0.69%. Now, I think one thing that's important to note for this particular indicator is that the district's required to establish our pension and TRS liabilities on our books. And so what that's going to do is that's going to, increase our total recognized liabilities on our books. But at the end of the day, we're likely never going to have to pay that, but it's still a requirement of the district to recognize that on our financials. Indicator number 12 was debt per $100 of assessed property value sufficient to support future debt payments. Again, this is just looking at debt service and is evaluated on a sliding scale point value with a maximum of 10 points. So in this case, we did achieve the maximum 10 points as assigned by TEA. Indicator 13 was the district's administrative cost ratio equal to or less than the threshold ratio. So in order to achieve the max points, we'd have to have a ratio of 8.55%. And that valuation is based off of the ADA of a school district. So since we have more than 10,000 students, 8.55% qualifies for us. And again, that's looking at a number of different costs, looking at our instructional admin, our general admin, and then looking at what we spend in terms of instruction, staff development, guidance and counseling, and a few other areas. But again, we did earn the maximum of 10 points with a admin cost ratio of 7%. Indicators number 14 and 15 are both grayed out. Again, these are indicators that are not currently being evaluated by TEA. As Amy mentioned, this goes back to the COVID-19 pandemic and the impact that had on school districts. So I think, in coming years, we'll be anticipating these probably be coming back on board in terms of being evaluated. But for now, TA goes ahead and awards all districts the maximum points allowed for these. Indicator number 16, did the comparison of PEIMS data to like information in district's annual financial report result in a total variance of less than 3% for all expenditures? The district did pass this indicator, and I believe our variance was 0%. I think it was like $200-something variance between the two, so not too bad. Indicator number 17, did the external independent auditor report that our annual financial report was free of any instances of material weakness? They said yes, and as a result, we did pass that indicator. Indicator number 18, did the external independent auditors indicate that the annual financial report was free of any instances of material non-compliance for grants, contracts, and laws related to local, state, or federal funds? Again, we passed that. Same with number 19, did CSISD post the required financial information on its website in accordance with government code, local government code, Texas Education Code, Texas Administrative Code, and other statutes, laws, and rules in effect? And we were awarded the maximum of 5 points. I think that was one where if you failed it, you get 0 points. Pass, you get the full 5 points. And then finally, in terms of our ceiling indicators, did CSISD school board members discuss the district's property value at board meetings within 120 days before the district adopted its budget? And yes, we did perform that. So in addition to those 20
We
indicators,
get credit for that, right?
we also have required disclosures. The first of which is the superintendent contract. So as part of these requirements, it says that the school district is to provide a copy of the superintendent's employment contract that is effective on the first date of the school first hearing in a calendar year 2023. So our superintendent contract can be found on the CSISD website, and within our first report packet, you'll see a link to where that is located. In addition, we also have to disclose reimbursements received by the superintendent and board members. So again, within that packet, you will see those reimbursements, which would include things such as meals, lodging, transportation, and any other applicable expenses. And then finally, for the last three items, the outside compensation or fees received by the superintendent and board members, business transactions between the school districts and boards members, as well as gifts received by the superintendent or board members. Those all must be disclosed. But as of the report date, there were no items to be disclosed on that. So essentially that concludes our presentation, but I would like to allow for public comment at this time.
I have a question. Whenever we give those bars, like the quick ratio and various other ones, are those set in stone or do they move year to year?
Are you
Like on
talking-
number 8, 11?
Sure. Yeah, I think from what I saw in the reports, those have been fairly static for the
Okay.
last few years. I'm sure it's something that TA evaluates from time to time in terms of where they want to draw those lines. One thing that they do look at is the ADA of a school district in determining, what those ratios should be. And so I'm sure over time, as they receive data from school districts, I'm sure they go in and reevaluate those on time. But I do know that at least for our report, it's been fairly consistent for the last few years.
Is there a central location, maybe on the TEA website, where we can compare our performance to other schools' performance?
So the data is maintained within Teal that we have access to.
It's actually on the district website. I mean, not the district, TEA's website. You can pull up any district. So if there's one in particular, it's going to be easier. If there's particular districts that you're interested in, you can pull up any of those and compare them.
I'd be interested to look at, I'll probably play with it on the ratios where we rank versus the plurality of schools of like type and size, and especially the administrative ratio, because I'd imagine with all the rapid growth, it looks like we're quite lean, so I applaud the administration on keeping us lean and giving us that nice buffer.
Yeah. So like I said, on the TEA website, that's available to the public. Some of the detailed calculations, you would have to have a login to look at those. But.
Anything else? Appreciate it, y'all.
Thank
Thanks
you
so
very much.
That will bring us to item E, adjournment.